For me personally, this is my third attempt to sail to Gaza, deliver humanitarian aid, and break the illegal siege and open up a humanitarian corridor. The first attempt, the boat was bombed a few hours before we can get on board while the crew was still on. And the second time was the Madeleine, where we were illegally intercepted. And Israel once again violated international law by withholding aid from getting into Gaza. And now this is the third time, and now we're coming back with dozens of boats. This is the 38th attempt to break the illegal siege by sea. We are mobilizing with thousands of people from all over the world. Over 26,000 people signed up to join this mission. And we are coming with dozens of boats, with delegations representing over 44 countries. And for me personally, when I was on the Madeleine and when we were taken, we made it very clear from that second that we will be coming back, and that is a promise, because no matter what the odds are, we have to keep trying. By doing that, we are also upholding our promise to the Palestinians to keep doing everything we can to end this genocide, to end our own complicity in genocide.
Of course, you began in climate justice, climate activism. Now you've extended that to what would be considered more kind of internationalist struggles, class struggles, and so on. Mm-hmm. How does Palestine fit within that framework?
For me, my focus from being a climate justice activist has not shifted at all. I'm still acting in line with the same values. I'm still trying to practice those values as I preach. We are fighting for justice, and in justice that includes the liberation of Palestine, Western Sahara, justice for Congo, Sudan, Kurdistan, etc., etc. We cannot pretend to care about the climate crisis while we ignore the suffering and oppression of people today. If we do so, then that is, in my view, very much racism, that we select which people we care about. If we only care about our white children's future, that is not caring about justice. So for me, I have not shifted focus at all. The first demonstrations I went to was for welcoming refugees to Sweden during the wave of refugees coming from mainly Syria in 2014-15. And that is where I started my so-called activism. So of course, we cannot achieve any justice whatsoever if we exclude Gaza, if we exclude Palestine. People keep asking me, what are the links between climate justice and Palestine, and why do you care about Palestine? I do not understand how people cannot see that connection. In what ways are Palestine and climate justice not connected? Why should I not care about Palestine? I am a human being. I have basic values, common sense. Of course, there are the obvious links between climate justice, environmental destruction, and Palestine, which is wars, occupations, environmental degradation, ecocide, huge emissions. They go hand in hand, as Palestinians know very, very well, by destroying all the conditions to maintain and sustain life, by, for example, destroying cropland, and just pure ecocides are one way of ecological warfare to deprive Palestinians of their means of sustaining life. But also, it should be much more simple that if you care about a habitable planet, you should also care about human well-beings. I'm not a climate activist because I want to save trees or frogs. Like, that is also very important. We should avoid a climate breakdown. But I'm a climate activist because I care about human as well as planetary well-being. And even if we are so selfish that the images from Gaza of people looking for body parts of their lost family members through the rubble, if that doesn't break our hearts and inspire us, not inspire, but motivate us to take action, how can we expect a world that is allowing this to happen, to take a few steps back and act to prevent an ecological and climate breakdown? And also, how can we expect that world to stand up for us when we need it?
You mentioned some of the risks, so the attacks on previous boats and so on, and of course there was the Marmara in 2010. Yeah. How do you weigh those risks? Now, given this is the biggest flotilla attempt ever.
Yeah, we are continuously making very thorough risk assessments, and we know that what we are doing now is kind of unprecedented. There hasn't been a mobilization wave exactly like this one before, especially with the land invasion now of Gaza City and the escalating genocide and the escalated blockade and siege on top of the already existing illegal siege. So we know that the uncertainties and risks are very big, but we are knowingly very aware of those risks, saying that we are still doing this. Of course, we are still going to do this. And for me personally, if I can contribute with anything, if I can contribute with a platform or a name that I, for some reason, have reached for, then there is no doubt about what to do, for my sake at least. And we have to remember that Palestinians do not need to be saved. They don't need us to come to their rescue. What we are doing is listening and acting upon the call that Palestinians are making globally for people to stand up, end their complicity, and to step in and compensate for our own governments and people in powers in action. We are loud and clearly saying that the world has not forgotten about Palestine and that our government's atrocities do not represent us in any way.
You know, this is going to be the longest trip. It's going to be like 2 weeks. What's it like on the boat after days and days at sea? Yeah. You know, is there a lot of solidarity?
Yeah, there's a lot of solidarity. You kind of become like a family because obviously my life is in everyone else's hands and their lives are in my hands. The actions of one person affect the entire group and can endanger the entire mission. So that's why we are training as much as we can to make sure that everyone is prepared. But yes, there's a lot of solidarity, and that is very inspiring to see this, I would say in many cases, historic uprising, where we are standing united for one cause. We all know why we are here.
Let's talk about the meaning of the flotilla. Obviously, the aims are to deliver aid, but what does it mean symbolically if that doesn't succeed?
This flotilla mission, as well as previous flotilla attempts, of course, the main objective is to deliver desperately needed humanitarian aid that Israel is actively preventing from getting into Gaza and therefore deliberately starving an entire population, but also to break Israel's illegal siege that is unlawful by all international law, and to try to open up a people's humanitarian corridor. Those are the concrete objectives with this trip. But of course, it means more than that. We are also trying to deliver hope and solidarity by, again, showing that the world is stepping up. We are not forgetting Gaza. We keep our eyes on Gaza. We keep talking about Gaza in every way that we can, using all the tools we have at hand.
Some people have said that your public profile has kind of shrunk a bit since you started talking about Palestine. Yeah. Do you think that's the case? And if so, why?
For sure. Like I would say it's a very, very clear difference. And of course, I and my other friends and comrades were talking about social justice way before October 2023. But it was then that the media decided that, oh, now they're radicalized, now they've shifted focus. And it's like, no, we were talking about system change and social justice from the beginning. You weren't just picking out on those things. You were portraying us as angry kids talking about our future, which we also did. But so that is a constructed narrative by the media, the same media that put us in that position, us versus the status quo. We were the radical ones talking about science, and it was portrayed as our opinions when it was what the current best available science was saying and is still saying. I think every day I get approached by people saying like, why have you shifted focus? And we will not invite you to this event, or you're too controversial, you're too political, or they invite me to things and say, you can talk about climate, you can't talk about politics. And it's like, what world are you living in? So I would say it is a very clear distance. And also the general media attention. It was a much more comfortable narrative with the angry kids being afraid of their future that was being taken away from them, versus people who are actually grown up and are calling out the systems that we want to overthrow.
What would climate justice look like for the people of Gaza? Now, I mean, given where we are, that's a very difficult question.
Yeah, what it would mean, it would first stop the occupation, breaking of the siege, ending the apartheid state, and that everyone can live with freedom, dignity, and justice from the river to the sea.
So J.D. Vance's mentor, Palantir founder and tech billionaire Peter Thiel, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, recently referred to you, apologies in advance, as the Antichrist in an interview with the NY Times. Are you aware of this? And what's your response?
I think someone mentioned it. I mean, risking now that people are thinking that I don't take anything serious, but it is hilarious. Like, why are they spending their time slandering young people who are just trying to say the common sense and fighting for the bare minimum? It's like they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't feel threatened by us and this uprising that we are a part of. But yeah, it's a huge source of entertainment for me as well. So thank you for that.
Good, great. Glad to hear it.